morning.
I need
My signature.
your signature on 3 points.
Okay.
I think there's 2 signature points there.
You'll have to go upstairs and get the seal, because I don't bring it down to the
That's
council. So it's just one set?
No, there's 3.
Okay, I'm okay.
I think the other document you may have signed, the notice to the county. I'll have to go back up after I present and check.
Okay.
So I may have one more document for you to sign.
Hey, Tim, are you going to get the mayor's after the meeting today?
Yeah, I figured. Here's a huge agenda, big agenda, small agenda.
I don't know, we have 8 new business items.
Yeah, and on 2 of them.
No, I don't know.
But yes, it is my intent to get into signing up.
Okay.
Good morning.
If you need to leave them with me, I could turn them in with this stuff and then just let Lynn know that they need to be signed ASAP.
Okay.
I mean, however way you
Is all
want to
that
do
to be
it.
signed?
Yeah,
So you know what you signed this morning?
not unless he's told to. Yeah.
You have the agenda, speaking of.
I do. Yes.
It's going to be a great morning.
Hey, how are your parents?
Oh,
Okay.
it's going to be. Thanks for asking. Appreciate it. Sure, better.
Thank you.
A couple weeks ago, I texted Taylor and said, please. I was going to start the table on fire just for some warmth.
Oh, hey, Jennifer. Do you have blue sheets today?
I was going to text you. That's the rule.
I'm doing good. 3 motions in a row. You guys testing me today? You testing me today? Just couldn't do 3 over. So, like last time, boom, 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 and then during discussion, I'll try to take the time down so that I'll try to figure out the timing beforehand, so it's not awfully complex.
It's hard to laugh.
Are they just 10 minutes each? Jeez. Oh, okay. Oh, that one has to do with me. Okay. Yep.
Thank you.
Morning, Joe. Morning.
We will open with the invocation delivered by Pastor Dave Fulton of St. Paul Lutheran Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. We ask everyone who is willing and able to stand. Pastor,
Shall we
good
pray?
morning. Thank you for being here.
Good Lord, these are interesting times in which to live. These are turbulent times when our nation's divisions are clear, when we are engulfed in a pandemic, when long-held frustration breaks out as demonstrations for racial justice, and when our own mayor is threatened. Good Lord, have mercy. Help us to see the way to peace, the sacred way that is pointed out by Eddie Hillesum before she went to the death camp. Ultimately, we have just one moral duty: to reclaim large areas of peace in ourselves. It's easy to search for someone not to blame when we seek chaos and violence, Lord. Make us instruments of your peace. Here in Wichita, make our elected officials instruments of your peace. Make our law enforcement officers instruments of your peace, all city staff, public health officials, and let all the citizens of this great city be instruments of peace. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. And all God's people say, Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, next on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Has every member had a chance to review the minutes? If so, is there any discussion or proposed amendments to the minutes as presented? If not, then I will go ahead and make the motion to approve the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. If there's no discussion on said motion, clerk will open a roll. Members cast a vote. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Proclamations, Red Ribbon Week.
We have two proclamations this morning. The first one is to recognize Red Ribbon Week, and I will read it as follows. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, founded in 1870. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse affects individuals, families, and communities across the nation. And whereas it is imperative that visible, unified efforts by community members be launched to prevent drug use, and whereas Red Ribbon Week offers citizens the opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to drug-free lifestyles, and whereas businesses, government, law enforcement, media, healthcare providers, religious institutions, schools, and other community-based organizations will demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing red ribbons and participating in the drug prevention activities. And now, therefore be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim October 23rd through the 31st, 2020 as Red Ribbon Week in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to celebrate and participate in preventive activities in the community. The next proclamation is in recognition of Chiropractic Health Month, and it reads as follows. Proclamation of the City of Wichita, Kansas, founded in 1870. Whereas chiropractors and physician-led healthcare providers who focus on the whole person as part of their hands-on, non-drug approach to pain management, health promotion, and rehabilitation. Whereas chiropractors were identified in a March 2020 memo by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security as part of an essential healthcare workforce, and many have continued to serve their patients and communities since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. Whereas chiropractors recognize that physical activity can improve symptoms, decrease disability, and improve function and well-being, in addition to reduce stress and anxiety and enhance sleep and quality of life. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Brandon Whipple, Mayor of the City of Wichita, Kansas, along with the Wichita City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2020 as Chiropractic Health Month in the City of Wichita, and encourage all citizens to learn more about the conservative approach to pain management and the benefits of movement, good posture, and healthy living. Madam Clerk.
Consent agenda items 1 through 17.
Has every member had a chance to review the consent agenda? Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? If there is no discussion, I'll make a motion that we pass the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. If there's no discussion on the motion, clerk will open a roll. Members will cast their vote. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Report of Board of Bids and Contracts dated October 19th, 2020.
Welcome and good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Hannah Lang, Department of Finance, here to present the October 19th Board of Bids recommendations. First engineering bid we have is water sampling stations. Recommendation is Wildcat Construction for $769,250. 16-inch water main extension on 119th Street. Recommendation is Mies Construction for $79,704. Paving Brentmore to serve Jackson Heights Townhomes. Pearson Construction, $156,052. Water Distribution System Phase 3 to serve Valencia Edition, Wilkes Underground for $24,447.50. Paving Delaware to serve Valencia Edition, deferred October 26 Board of Bids. Wichita Valley Center Flood Control Project, Station 3 Pump 2 repairs, Wildcat Construction Company, $129,600. Lincoln Street Dam Cylinder Repair Replace, Donliner & Sons Construction for $91,750. This is our purchasing procurement website, as well as our current open request for proposals. That is the Board of Bids recommendations. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff on the item? If not, any discussion on the item from the bench? If not, I will make a motion to take staff's recommended action to receive and file the report, approve the contracts, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Members cast their votes. Result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing and request for an amended letter of intent for industrial revenue bonds, Gridley Family Foundation.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development. For the record, the item before you today is a request to modify an IRB letter of intent for the Gridley Family Foundation. On May 7th of last year, 2019, the City Council approved an industrial revenue bond letter of intent for the Gridley Family Foundation. It was going to acquire and redevelop the former printing ink building at 3rd and St. Francis into a co-working and event space, which they have named Groover Labs. The letter of intent was for $4 million for a sales tax only. It was believed at the time that the use of the foundation would provide for an ad valorem property tax exemption in perpetuity, so there was no request for a property tax abatement at the time. This aerial, you can see St. Francis is running roughly through the middle of the aerial, top to bottom, and from left to right, you can see 3rd Street toward the top. The area outlined in blue is the property that is now Groover Labs. These are a couple of pictures of the project. You can see on the left some workstations, and on the right, one of the labs in the facility. The Family Foundation, Gridley Family Foundation, is now preparing to apply to the Kansas Board of Tax Appeals, or BOTA, for its property tax abatement. The way that the project is set up is that the foundation is leasing the building to Groover Labs, who is then leasing the facility to end users. The end users are typically for-profit entities, and in the state of Kansas, the way the Board of Tax Appeals looks at projects is not who owns the property, but who actually is utilizing the property. In that scenario, if there is for-profit users in the facility, the Board of Tax Appeals will normally not apply for or not allow for a property tax abatement. So the Gridley Family Foundation's attorney is concerned that the Board of Tax Appeals may not approve the exemption, or it may take some time to work through the process to get the property tax abatement for the foundation. Therefore, the Gridley Family Foundation is requesting an amendment to its IRB letter of intent to approve an ad valorem tax abatement for the facility at 334 North St. Francis. There is an error in the agenda report under financial considerations, whereby we state several times that they are applying for the property tax abatement, but we forgot to take out one sentence in financial considerations that says they were not applying for a tax abatement, which was from the original agenda report. That is incorrect at this time. The approval would remove the property from property tax January 1 of 2021, which again could allow them to still apply as a foundation for the property tax abatement, but this could buy them some time in the meanwhile. Based on the new economic development guidelines, the foundation would qualify for a 100% 5+5 year basis as detailed here. They're projecting they will add 7 new jobs over the next 5 years that would qualify them for a 30% property tax abatement. They're investing at this point over $2.8 million, which would qualify them for a 40% tax abatement. They are also investing in entrepreneurship as a co-working space, which would qualify them for an additional 25%, and they are locating in a redevelopment area, which qualifies them for an additional 25%. In total, that's 120%. Obviously, 100% would be the maximum. The new guidelines provide these additional considerations, such as investing in entrepreneurship and locating in a redevelopment area that the prior policy did not consider, which helps this project move forward. A cost-benefit analysis was conducted by the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State, which showed an overall ratio of benefits to cost for the city of 1.19 to 1, 1.07 to 1 for the city's general fund, and 1.51 to 1 for the city's debt service fund. Therefore, it's staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the amended resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. Kurt Gridley and Tracy Hoover of the Gridley Family Foundation and Groover Labs are at Century 2 and can answer any questions specific to the project, and I would be happy to stand for any questions as well.
Is there questions of staff? Turning attention to Century 2, Megan, is there anybody who wishes to speak to this, or are they just available for questions?
Mayor, we do have one person. It's yours.
Excellent.
Oh, there I am.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Tracy Hoover. I'm trustee of the Gridley Family Foundation and co-founder of Groover Labs. My husband, Kurt Gridley, is here in the room also. And I just wanted to thank City Council, Cindy Claycomb in particular, for being our champion, and then Tim Goodpasture for helping us work through this process. I'm happy to answer any questions if anybody has any.
Excellent. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions, but we thank you for being here in support.
All right, thank you.
If there's no further discussion, the chair recognizes the Vice Mayor, Councilmember Claycomb, for a motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say, again, thank you to Kurt and Tracy for investing in our core and for having established Groover Labs here. I think this is bringing this back. We get to see again the new economic development guidelines and the effects of those, so I appreciate that. So with that, I move that City Council close the public hearing, adopt the amended resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I will second the motion. Motion has been made and seconded. If there's no discussion on the motion, clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. The result is 7 yeas to 0 nays. That motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing and request for a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds, flight safety, Textron aviation training.
Again, Mayor and City Council members, Tim Goodpasture with the City's Office of Economic Development for the record. The next item before you is a request for an industrial revenue bond letter of intent for flight safety, Textron aviation training. Flight safety was founded in 1951 to provide training for commercial, military, and government organizations. Flight safety Textron aviation training provides training to operators of business and regional aircraft. Flight safety is intending to renovate a building at 1009 North Greenwich at an approximate cost of $855,000 and install a new simulator, which will be approximately $10.5 million, to train on the Textron Sky Courier. The The company is projecting it will add 5 new employees at an average annual wage of $90,000. Current employment is 294. The company is requesting a letter of intent to issue industrial revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $11,400,000. This is an aerial that shows the location of the facility. You can see towards the bottom of the aerial Central, which is running kind of curving around the runway. To your left, you can see Webb Road. On the right, you can see Greenwich, and the area outlined in red is where the facility is located that the simulator would be installed. These are just a couple of images of what the simulators look like. The company is qualifying for a 100% tax abatement based on the new guidelines. They are adding 5 jobs, which qualifies them for a 30% tax abatement. They are investing $11.4 million, which qualifies them for a 60% property tax abatement. And they are in a regional growth plan sector, aerospace, which qualifies them for an additional 10%, which gets them to a 100% abatement. This is unique, again, with the new guidelines in that we're looking a little more heavily at the capital investment as opposed to simply job creation. And so that 60% abatement on an $11 million plus investment is a very substantial thing that was not recognized previously in the economic development policy. There is a sales tax exemption on construction materials, and kind of unique to this project, the $10.5 million investment in the simulator will be subject to a use tax. The sales and use tax exemption would apply in this case, so the majority of the benefit that is being offered is that sales and use tax exemption that they will recognize when they install the $10.5 million simulator next year. A cost-benefit analysis was conducted by the Center for Economic Development and Business Research at Wichita State, which showed an overall ratio of benefits to costs of 1.92 to 1 for the city, 1.32 to 1 for the city's general fund. It's important to note that there will be substantial new visitors to Wichita because of this training facility. In year 1, they will see net new visitors to Wichita of 100. They're projecting 150 in year 2 and 200 in year 3. And in years 4 through 10, they're projecting over 200 new visitors to Wichita because of this training facility. Therefore, it's the staff's recommendation that the City Council close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures. Scott Pollitt and Michelle Dodson of Flight Safety are at Century 2 and can answer any questions specific to the company, and I would be happy to answer any questions as well.
Any questions on this item or discussion? I just texted over to Century 2. I don't think there's anyone there to speak to this. And since that apparently has been confirmed, I will go ahead and recognize Councilmember Tuttle of District 2.
Thank you. Of course, I want to thank Assistant City Manager Scott Rigby. We went and met with Flight Safety first, I think it was back in January or early February, and was just really excited that even with COVID that this is able to progress, and also thank Tim Goodpasture for being involved in the process. Also, just really want to robustly thank Flight Safety for investing in our community, and especially in District 2 during these challenging times. I think this is going to be just a wonderful addition to our community, and also the fact that it'll bring more visitors and more people to be able to come and see the amenities that we do have. So with that, I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing, adopt the resolution of intent, and authorize the necessary signatures.
I will second the motion. Motion has been made and seconded. If there's no discussion on said motion, clerk will open the roll. Members cast the vote. With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Proposed 2021 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. Alan King, Director of Public Works and Utilities, bringing before you today for your consideration the 2021 Outsourced Pavement Preservation Program. We do this every year. Even though the work won't be performed until 2021, we're bringing it to you now because we have found that with some repairs that we do, there are 2 steps. You have to go in and do some repairs to the basic foundation of the road and then come back later and do a seal coat or surface treatment on the road. Often those are two different contractors. And when you look at availability of contractors and the difficulty of scheduling, what we found is that for these types of repairs, we were having to push them into the spring of the next year. And so from the citizens' perspective, they were seeing a road that was repaired and then re-repaired. So what we're trying to do is to get the authorization early and requests for bids early enough that we can have fewer of these schedule challenges, fewer of these delays into the next year. We tried that last year and had some success, and so that's why we're bringing it to you now. So one of the things, just by way of review, that makes our approach different than perhaps a lot of approaches, certainly our approach before 2011, was that rather than looking just at the pavement condition index number, the PCI, and using repairing worst first, which is kind of the industry standard or has been for a long time, we looked at an alternative, which was what is the return on the investment of the funds that we do invest in this work, and try to change not only the selection of road segments, but also the treatments that we apply, so that we maximize our return on investment rather than just taking care of the worst roads first. So there's quite a departure starting back in about 2012. And in 2013, we started doing some extensive piloting to try to test some of these theories to see how well they actually worked. In 2014 and 15, we did a lot of residential thermal crack repairs, and those are those long cracks that go from curb to curb that jar your teeth when you go over them. And got quite a bit of that work done. Those are very high return on investment. 16 and 17, we did the same kind of a thing on our arterial roads. And then starting in 18, and we will continue on into 21, we'll be looking more really at our optimized approach based on our model results. To illustrate these concepts, when you look at the PCI, the pavement condition index on the y-axis, the one going up and down, 100 being the best and 0 being the worst, you can see that a typical segment will degrade over time. And so as you go through time in years on the x-axis, you'll see that it becomes in poorer and poorer condition, but it's not linear, it's curved. And so it doesn't degrade very fast in the earlier years, but it degrades quite quickly in the later years. One of the things that's important is for us to recognize that the kinds of treatments that we want to consider, we want to match those to where a particular segment is in its life cycle. So if it's early in the year, you can do a preservative treatment. That's $1 per square yard. Preservation treatment, as it gets a little bit worse condition, $3 per square yard. By the time you get down to reconstruction, you're talking about $35 per square yard. So as you can see, depending on when you apply the treatment, has a big effect on the cost that you have to do. And so when we say reconstruction at RSL equals 0, what that means is the remaining service life is pretty much used up. So if you take a road that's in fairly good condition and apply a less expensive treatment to it to keep it in good condition for, say, 25 years, you have a total $5 cost over that 25 years. So you have a cost per year for dollars. You have 5 years of life that you get for each dollar that you invest. Whereas if you can see in the blue line, you have 11 years at $12 total cost. Now you're only getting a 0.92 year per dollar invested. So as you can see, it's only a fifth or 20% of the other treatment. The reason we raise this is that when you look at going out and taking care of the worst roads first, when you do that, you let some of the roads that are in good condition start to degrade. It's like putting paint on your house. If you keep the paint on the house while it's new, it continues to stay in good condition. If you wait until the siding degrades to the point where it's rotted and you have to replace it, much more expensive. So what we're trying to do is to be more proactive and get to some of these streets while they're still in good condition, to keep them in good condition. Now that may be a little bit counterintuitive, particularly for people who are looking at the work that we're doing. That road is not in such bad condition. Why are you spending your time there? It's because by taking this kind of approach, we get the very highest value out of the dollars that we invest in our program. So some of the highlights on the 2021 OP3 program is that it's The funding is $11.5 million. That's up $1 million from last year's $10.5 million. We're going to continue our emphasis on the high return on investment, preventive and preservative maintenance, keeping new roads new. But, and there's not going to be any standalone thermocrack repairs. Pretty much got through those. Now we're watching to see how they perform. We're starting to see some of them fail now and will need work again, but a lot of them are in pretty good shape. We're going to continue pilot replacement of failed brick crosswalks. Rather than replacing them with actual bricks, we're using stamped colored concrete, and we're looking to see how well that is accepted and how well that performs. And then we're also looking at a mix not only of just keeping new roads new, but also we recognize the importance of keeping our streets travelable and safe. And so we have a good percentage of our dollars spent on mitigating those streets that have got in poorer condition. We distribute to the funding over the 6 districts, and we try to be pure in terms of applying our principles, but where we have choices, we make choices to try to achieve some level of equity between districts. When we say equity, we look at the number of miles. We have about 5,100 lane miles of paved roads in the streets, in the city, which is a lot of lane miles. What we try to do is look at the number of lane miles in each of the districts and then try to come up with where we have choices with percentages that are fairly close to that. So as you can see, for example, in District 1, it has 18% of the total paved roads in the network, and we're spending about 18% of the total budget on that particular district, and so on. So we're not just spending our money based on an even distribution across districts, but we try to, where we have choices, achieve that outcome, and that seems to be what we've been able to do for this proposed year. One of the other things, while we're speaking about equity, that was important for us to look at, and the manager challenged us to look at this, which was, are we spending our money in a way that is fair and of the representative need and of different groups within the city? So what we did, in the same sort of a manner, trying to stay pure to our philosophy, was we looked at those parts of the city that are in local investment areas, which generally will reflect perhaps poorer income, per capita income in that particular area. And when we compared the areas that are in local investment areas, about 15.2% of the area in the city, we're spending about 17.3% in those areas. So although it's not an exact match, it approximates an outcome where we are spending equitably across different classes of citizens in the city. When you look at the impact of our OP3 program, started back, like I said, in 2011, where we were basically doing mill and overlay, grinding down a layer on the road and then replacing it with new asphalt. That was taking care of the worst roads first. We were only getting 72 lane miles maintained that way. What we have done since then with the new approach that we're using have significantly increased the number of lane miles that we do each year, not just because of an increase in budget funding amount, which we have, but also recognizing a different approach to actually doing this work. The reason why you see the real big numbers in 16 and 17, probably because of the thermocrack repairs, which we could do a lot of those thermocrack repairs for the dollar. So that's why you see that those very high numbers in those years. As you can see, in 2021, we're proposing doing 498 lane miles, which is a slight increase over 2020, and it's 11.5 million versus 10.5 million. So a lot of that is due to just increased funding, but a significant increase overall over the earlier approach that we were using, and the outcome that we're seeing reflects that. So when you look at how to evaluate how we're doing, one of the things we look at is the asset value. You know, if you look at a road, what would it cost if it were brand new? And if it's degraded half of its life, its value is about half of a brand new cost of a road. So we actually value the assets that we have reflecting the condition that they're in. The old approach that we talked about, the black dashed line, that would be the results that we would expect if we had continued on and doing the things the way that we were doing. We were losing ground, significantly losing ground over time. With the new approach, you can see the gold or yellow line, and what that shows is now we're evening it out. We're actually doing better with the new approach that we're using. But council was not content with just this kind of progress. They wanted to actually see things stabilize out and maybe do a little bit better, maybe a little bit of catch up from what we've been doing. That's reflected by the red dashed line, which reflects council's prioritization of this kind of work by increasing the budget each year. And as you can see, we're gaining ground. It's not real fast, but it is measurable gain in ground. In a similar way, we look at the remaining acceptable service life, and as just another way of looking at how we're doing, we look at lane mile years, how many years we expect a particular lane mile to last, and we have a measure of that. And as you can see, the gold line shows us at the old funding amount, but with the new approach, stabilized out, but still in a very slight decline. Reflecting the council's prioritization on CIP funding, you can see the red line, which shows that we're modestly gaining ground, certainly not losing any ground. But there is a downside. With the approach that we're using, when you look at the lane miles that have a remaining service life at 0, you can see that we were in the old approach, we were definitely losing ground, even with the yellow line. The red line, we're still losing ground. It's closer to being flat, but that's one of the outcomes, one of the things that happens when you do take this kind of approach. You end up with some roads that are in poorer condition. That's why we spend a percentage, about 40% of our funding, on mitigating streets so that we can keep streets in drivable and safe condition while we have a high return on investment on the funds that we're spending. We have a report that has been handed out as part of council's memo, and it does show a map with the different treatments that we're doing. It also has a comprehensive list of district by district of the individual streets. We will be posting this information on the web so that people can get a sense of what we're planning on doing. We also, with the model, can have a fairly good idea about what we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 years out from now. And so as you get questions from your constituents, we can often tell them when we plan on doing repair on a particular road if it's not on this list. To give you some sort of a sense of what we're talking about when we say these repairs, there's the brick crosswalk replacement, where we're taking brick crosswalks and replacing them with stamped colored concrete. They should last a lot longer and be less susceptible to displacement than bricks are, and we expect them to have a fairly long, useful remaining life on them. So we're doing some experimenting and actually have some crosswalks that have been replaced. They look pretty good for stamped concrete. One of the things we do is full depth concrete repair. With concrete, you have different options and different limitations on what you can do. Quite often, you can't just put a coat over a concrete road. Sometimes you have to actually take out whole panels and replacement, and that's what we talk about, full depth removal. And we have a good number of concrete streets in our network, and so we have to make sure that this is one of the things that we either have on our list of high return on investment or address with mitigation by keeping them safe. We also are looking at localized repairs. There are some streets that, when you look at the entire street, it may not be bad enough to rise to a level of getting on, in our model, getting on the list to be remodeled or to be done. But it's the way we do it is we rate a street from intersection to intersection. And so what we're trying to do is refine our approach a little bit to look at localized areas that are still pretty bad. We're trying to now put money into repairing those localized areas, even though the rating of the entire street may not put it on our list. And hopefully this will make our streets, again, safe and travelable. We also look at microsurfacing seal. That's one of the things we're doing. There's a before and after picture. Particularly good if we're doing those localized repairs that we talked about. We can come back later and put a coat over them The localized repairs are important, they're necessary so that you don't have the same failure reflect through the seal coat. And we're getting a lot of favorable comments from our constituents about this kind of a repair. And then the pavement joint and crack seal. This is not pretty. A lot of people wonder, why are we doing this? It sure brings to your attention the crack, because if you didn't see it before, you will after we crack seal it. But it's a very necessary way for us to save the condition and the life of our streets. By keeping the water from penetrating underneath the surface of the street, it really significantly adds to the life of the street, and it's a relatively inexpensive cost. When you look at preservative seals, you know, we'll do a street, maybe even a new street that we build, and if we build on new street, we come back a couple years later perhaps and put a preservative seal over it. This is one that you'll probably get questions from your constituents, is they just repaired that street, now why are they coming and doing something more? What we found is by doing a preservative seal, it really helps to prolong the life. It's a relatively inexpensive treatment, and it really prolongs the life of a new or freshly treated road. And then there's the ultra-thin bonded asphalt, and that looks like a brand new street, and yet it's we look at that, and it's a relatively cost-effective way for us to treat some kinds of roads. So that's the proposed 2021 outsourced pavement preservation program. And with that, I would be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you for that extensive overview. Is there any discussion or questions for staff? If not, is there discussion from the bench? Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Alan, I did have a couple of quick questions, sorry. So this is a common issue with constituents' road treatments, and I think we're doing a much better job than a few years ago when we were, what, $4 million annually? So we've made good progress on fixing our lane miles. My question is, what % of lane miles are we at that satisfactory paving condition index? I think it marked about 60 on slide 46 when you were talking about what's that satisfactory level. No, I'm sorry, 43. I may have got my slide numbers wrong.
It's probably my slide numbers.
But when you talk about pavement condition index, and we have a satisfactory level, right? There we go. That's 70%. What % of lane miles are we at in that satisfactory range?
I don't have that information with me.
Ballpark?
I would say that now, when we talk about satisfactory, because we're maintaining a pretty good remaining surface life on our assets, that I'm going to take a stab here. Is Aaron anywhere? You have a stab at that?
Our average is right about at that 7.
Okay.
So about half of our network is above it, half of it is below it.
And that's notwithstanding the fact that we actually have a greater amount of below remaining surface life at 0, but it just is made up by for the other. So half is evidently the answer.
Well, and again, this is commendable because this is one thing that I think all of us on the council hear about from our constituents all the time is road miles and the lane conditions. And so taking these necessary steps to get a lot of deferred maintenance, but ahead of the curve, it's very commendable. And I'm pleased to hear it's that strong of a number. So just great all around.
Further discussion on the item? If there is no further discussion, I will go ahead and make a motion to take staff's recommended action, which is to approve the 2020 outsourced pavement preservation program, adopt the resolutions, and authorize the necessary signatures. Is there a second?
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. There's no discussion on said motion. Clerk will open a roll. Members will cast their vote. The result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Aquatics Master Plan Phase 2 Aesthetic Design Concept.
Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mayor and Council members. Gary Jansen, Public Works Engineering. I'm going to be really brief and talk about a little bit of a history of the Aquatics Master Plan, where we're currently at, and a few numbers on this first slide. Then I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hill with Parks and Recreation. He's going to, so our goal today is to talk to you about the aesthetics for Phase 2 of the Aquatics Master Plan. We do have the artists here today too, who Brian will introduce. So as you're all aware, brief history, we've been discussing for quite some time the overall Aquatics Master Plan. The City Council had dedicated $22 million in the Capital Improvement Program for a 3-phase project. Phase 1, 3 pools and 3 splash pads is under construction. All will be done and ready for the 2021 season. Phase 2, which you're going to hear about the final aesthetics today, for 2 pools and 1 splash pad. We actually have bid this project already for construction, and some preliminary work has begun. That does not commit the council to anything today. We have some flexibility within how we bid that project, but from a timing perspective, we wanted to get started on construction to make sure Phase 2 could also be done and open for the 2021 season. So what you're going to see today, the Design Council recommended approval for on September 14th. And the City Council had previously approved the overall aesthetics for the entire Aquatics Master Plan. Then we kind of went through a stepped approach, first for Phase 1, and now it's for final approval of Phase 2. So basically what happened when we bid this for construction, we've got some of the infrastructure bid to help support and accommodate aesthetic improvements, regardless of what the council's final decision is on that. So again, we've got some flexibility built in. I don't want, certainly we didn't want the council to feel like they were backed into a corner on this for this decision today. So we can still make things work regardless of what comes out of today. With that, I just wanted to mention the budget real quick. The Phase 2 budget out of the overall $22 million is $6.5 million. You can see the split for the Harvest and Minisa pools and the Linwood Splash Pad. And the aesthetics included within that for each of the pools is $260,000, and then for the Linwood Splash Pad is $186,000. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Hill, and he's going to go through each location specifically, talk about the themes, talk about the things that we showed the Design Council. So,
Welcome.
Morning, Mayor, council members. My name is Brian Hill with the Wichita Parks Recreation Department, Aquatics, and Watson Park. I'm going to go over the aesthetics of each of the locations. I also have a couple members of the design team with me here today. Kent Williams and Connie Ernett are in the audience. So if we get to some really specific questions, they'll be able to help us out. Once again, these are the 3 locations we're talking about is the Linwood Water Playground, Harvest Pool, and Minisa Pool. This map shows the locations of each site. Linwood Splash Pad, we'll talk about the splash pad first. We try to go with an approach, this is kind of like a lost area that's been refound and relocated. Nature's kind of come in and reclaimed some of this area. You've got the fun little river stream that's going to kind of flow between 2 areas of seating. And one of the signature pieces of this is a water wheel. It kind of calls back to some of the olden times of near Hydraulic Street where the worst water wheels are providing power here in the city. We like to throw back to the history. One of the things we're really excited about are these little boulders you see, these mounds. Next slide shows a fun structure, how they're kind of built here, and they're going to be covered with kind of a mossy substance, and there'll be mysteries in around. Kids can play on and tumble around. You get a diagram there that shows the height of the water wheel, how it's going to look, kind of a stationary element, and a lot of the other fun features that people can play with. One of the fun things we really try to find with these each locations, it's not just about the water there, it's all about the overall experience. There's going to be plenty of seating. We really want to encourage families to come out and enjoy these locations. Harvest Pool, just kind of a reminder of some of the amenities we've already discussed that are going to be added to this location. What's kind of been added out, we have the zero-depth entry that's been pulled out to add for easier access to the pool. For this aesthetic theme, we decided to go with something from the name The Harvest, and how the harvest fits in with the life cycle of everything. You'll see some of the design elements talking about from frogs, going from tadpoles all through the life cycle. We have these beautiful pillars that are going to be added that's going to have describe the life cycle in better detail and add some more fun features to the park. One of the things I really am happy with is the inclusion of local wildlife here in Wichita, and we have a pump room that needs a little bit of dressing up, and our artists have found a fun way to make it look a little bit more fun so it doesn't stick out as a kind of an eyesore, showing the lightning bugs and the cicadas. Very exciting for how this is going to fit in and add some attraction to that area. Here at Minisa, once again, just a general overview of how the pool looks like with the added amenities and features. For the Minisa art and aesthetics elements, we harken back to a lot of things. So there we have a lot of native architecture already in the area. We have these beautiful fascia along the pool wall, and we wanted to kind of dive in more to that theme. We still have a lot of the life cycle with local wildlife with the blue heron and the otter going to be attached. A lot of hidden elements, secret surprises for people to find. But we really wanted to cherish and call back to the Native American traditions that we have here. The signature sculpture is actually based on a grass lodge that was built here in Wichita almost 100 years ago. It's going to be a great sculpture for people to be able to sit under, picnic under, see. We'll have a little bit of information about the history of this and why it was here in Wichita. It's a beautiful piece. It's recommended that the City Council approve the aesthetic design concept for Phase 2 of the Aquatics Master Plan. And at this time, we will answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. No questions. I just want to say well done. This looks really great.
Thank you.
It does look amazing, by the way. Other comments or questions? See none. With that, I will make the motion to take staff's recommended action to approve the aesthetic design concept for Phase 2, and it will need to be seconded.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. No discussion on said motion. Clerk, open a roll. Please cast the vote. With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Kansas Eviction Prevention Program MOU.
Good morning, Ms. Stang.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. Sally Stang from the Housing and Community Services Department for the record. The item that I have for you today is a collaboration with Kansas Housing Resource Corporation for the Kansas Eviction Prevention Program. It is funded under the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act, the CARES Act, and authorized by the Strengthening People and Revitalizing Kansas Task Force, SPARK, under KHRC, Kansas Housing Resource Corporation. Again, all the acronyms. KEP provides rental assistance to income-eligible households that have missed one or more rent payments as a result of COVID-19. The landlords and tenants have to apply jointly to an online process, and the approved tenants are eligible for a maximum of 9 months rental assistance, not to exceed $5,000 per household. To be eligible, the applicant's household income must be at or below 85% of the state median income. Here's a chart that shows by household size, income qualifications. You'll notice they're higher than many other programs, so there may be many more families that can qualify for this program than others funded through CDBG and other aspects. KHRC is working to implement the program as quickly as possible. They have till December 31st to expend $35 million statewide, and they have asked our Wichita Central County Community Action Partnership, WISCAP, to assist in that effort. Our staff will pre-qualify applicants and landlords, refer them to the CAP application portal, and market the program to applicants and landlords. There is no impact to the general fund. The program will earn $250 per eligible application referred. Those funds will funnel back through CSBG funding for eligible CSBG programs. The Law Department has reviewed and approved the MOU as to form, and we're recommending that the council approve the MOU with KHRC for the Kansas Eviction Prevention Program and authorize the necessary signatures, and I stand for any questions you may have.
Questions for staff. Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. This is an amazing opportunity for folks who need it, especially landlords and the tenants, so I thought that was great. My question is for people who may have missed one or more payments. Does that date back to March?
January, actually.
Wow.
Yes, they'll let us go back to January. HUD's actually allowing things to go back to January 20th also. So I think they're recognizing when people were starting to be impacted by COVID-19.
That's amazing. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this gives us an opportunity to keep people in their houses and not have that, that bump of evictions that we are all fearing. So we have to do all we can to get the information out about this so folks know that this program's there. So Councilmember Claycomb, excuse me, my apologies, Vice Mayor Claycomb.
Thank you, Mayor. Sally, thank you. This is an amazing program for those that need it. I saw there's a cap on the 35 million that they have to spend. Is it just first come, first serve?
It is first come, who qualify. The biggest challenge we run into is the verification that there's been an economic impact related to COVID. So we've been running our own rent assistance program now for 4 months. That's the biggest challenge we run into, and we've had conversations with the state saying, okay, let's learn from what we've learned so far to try and figure out how we can get that documentation so we can get this money out as quickly as possible. So we are prioritizing this program over our internal program just because their spend timeline expires at the end of the year, where ours doesn't expire till 2022 or 2026, depending on which funding source. Yes.
Thank you.
Councilmember Bluebock.
Thank you, Mayor. Sally, I appreciate your work on this. I think it's very important. You know, the original program we had where there was just no eviction, it kind of put everything back on the landlord. So this seems like a win-win for everybody. And you know, there's so many people that are still coming up short at the end of the month, whether they don't have their full-time employment, whether they have kids that are out of school and they can't work regularly right now. So certainly appreciate everything you've done here. Thank you.
Further comments? Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. I guess Sally and Bob, how are we gonna get this word out? Will it be a press conference or are we speaking to certain agencies?
Our team is working with the communications team to help get that out. This was really good timing for us because we had the landlord impact survey that we had issued and just closed last week. So that'll be the first round. So we had 72 landlords respond to that survey. They're gonna be our first pass. And getting in touch with them right away to say, okay, let's start working on the clients that you identified have indicated their late payments are due to COVID. So that'll be our first round. We'll continue to market through communications, through the Apartment Association of Greater Wichita, through all of the resources, including our Section 8 landlords. Those who participate, though, in Section 8, that is one caveat to the program, aren't eligible, because their subsidy can be adjusted through the Section 8 program. But we do have landlords that have some voucher clients and some market clients. So we want to make sure that we're getting out to those that are seeing arrears related to COVID. So.
Awesome. Could we possibly have a, not very complicated, but like a simple graphic so we could put that in our newsletter and get that out as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
I will note, Councilmember Johnson, Mayor, that our partners that are on the COVID-19 task force are also sending out notices. And so the nonprofit chamber, the Chamber of Commerce, the partnership, all of those folks are sending out notification. And the state has already started their campaign as well.
Councilmember, the floor is yours if you'd like to make a motion.
Sure. I would move that City Council take staff's recommended action.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by Councilmember Johnson, seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Bike share ICT administration assignment to Tandem Mobility.
Mr. Tan, welcome, sir.
Morning, Mayor.
Did you take
council
the bus
members.
here?
Today you have a couple documents in front of you concerning the restarting of bike share ICT here in Wichita. The one document is for the administration assignment to Tandem Mobility, and the second is the memorandum of understanding to provide sponsorship from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. That is a continuation of something that's been provided by them for 3 years now. So we're excited about that. A little bit of background. In February 2013, City Council endorsed the Wichita Bicycle Master Plan, which made it easier and safer and more convenient for people to get around
Wichita on a motorcycle, or excuse me, on a bicycle. May 4th, 2017, Bike Share ICT launched in Wichita. The program was made possible by the funding from Blue Cross and Blue Shield and also from the Wichita Community Foundation. That system was administered initially by the Health and Wellness Coalition of Wichita, later by the YMCA, and then that was contracted through a company called Zagster, and that was up until March of 2020 that occurred. You can see the ridership numbers that we have, 2017 being the first year, 8,000 trips, 2018 we had 15,000 trips, and in 2019, almost 23,000 trips. So it was a very, very successful program. And then, unfortunately, as we all know, the impacts of COVID-19 contributed to Zagster's inability to continue that service beyond March of 2020. Tandem Mobility has stepped up, and through contract assignment, they've assumed and want to assume the responsibilities for that contract that existed between Zagster prior. They were formed to help and develop help and manage complete mobility solutions for communities, offer a premier micro-mobility software, which is called Movatic. Movatic powers over 300 bike share and scooter share systems with over 5,000 active scooters and or bikes currently in the United States. Tandem Mobility will provide the bike stations, customer support, maintenance, a mobile app, mobile support, signage, website, and system balancing, which is exactly what Zagster was doing before, and they actually are assuming all of that, all of those responsibilities with regards to that. When we're talking about the assignment of the previous contract allows Tandem Mobility to assume Zagster's role in the contract with the city and to provide the bike share and to provide those services to Bike Share ICT. Tandem Mobility has purchased all of those assets, both physical and non-physical. They are currently located over at Transit, so we have those and they're available for them to start to prepare to deploy in early December. The MOU, which is the same document that existed prior, is for Blue Cross and Blue Shield to provide $360,000 of funding as a pass-through from the city to provide a bike share system of 200 bicycles with annual renewal options, as well as future expansion upon usage. Not all of those plans were, of course, in Zagster's plans as well, but circumstances did not allow that. The contract with Tandem Mobility and the MOU were all dated to start December 1st. That allows Tandem Mobility the opportunity to redeploy, rebrand, repair, and sort of prepare to get everything out there since it's been inactive since March of 2020. As you all know, the Bike Share ICT system is largely funded by that sponsorship from Blue Cross and Blue Shield. There's also additional station sponsorships and user fees, which generate in the past approximately $50,000 in annual funds to Bike Share ICT, which is used to market and advance the system. And up to this point, it's been very, very, very successful with regards to that. The Bike Share ICT is a subcommittee of the Bike Ped Advisory Board with Blue Cross and Blue Shield as stakeholders, and other stakeholders are members of that as well to make sure that we're staying true to what the mission of Bike Share is supposed to be. It is recommended that City Council approve the Memorandum of Understanding and Letter of Assignment and provide the required signatures. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Are there any questions or comments? Councilmember Tuttle.
I don't think anybody's surprised that I pushed my button when Director Tan was walking down here before he even started speaking. I have to say this is probably one of the happiest days I've had since May 4th of 2017 when we did our launch of Bike Share ICT. And I really want to give a sincere and robust thank you to Director Mike Tan and now Planning Director Scott Wadle, who were instrumental in making sure that Bike Share ICT comes back to our great city. It was a very sad day back in, I think it was April, when I got a call from Director Tan in the evening saying that Zagster had gone bankrupt, but he made a commitment that we would bring it back. So thank you for all you've done. I really appreciate your extra effort. Also, we have to thank Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Kansas. Without their generous support, this would not happen. This is a fantastic amenity for our community that helps people be more active and get around our city in a different way, but also for visitors who come to our city. We have ridership from all 50 states and from other countries. So it's a really important amenity, not just for the residents of Wichita, but for others who visit our great city. And I also want to make one final comment. I could talk all day, but I won't. But not only is this just a really efficient and unique and cost-effective form of recreation, but also transportation. For quite a while, the most utilized stop, or the place people stopped the most that there wasn't a station, was in front of the Dillons that's at Douglas and Hillside, which leads us to believe that people were utilizing the system not only for recreation but for transportation, and especially in the food desert area that we have downtown. So we intentionally placed stations thinking not only of just recreation but also how it can benefit our residents. So thank you again to everyone, and I'm going to robustly support this.
There are no further speakers on the list, therefore, Councilmember Tuttle, you can retain the floor and make a motion.
Thank you. One of the happiest motions I will make is to approve the memorandum of understanding and the letter of assignment.
Second.
The motion has been made by Councilmember Tuttle and seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open a roll. Members will cast a vote. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Repair or removal of dangerous and unsafe structures.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Kaylin Nethercott. I'm the Neighborhood Inspection Administrator with MABCD. We come before you today to present 7 properties for consideration of condemnation. On August 3rd, 2020, the Board of Code Standards and Appeals held hearings on multiple properties and referred these 7 to you for consideration. There are 2 in District 1, 2 in District 3, 2 in District 4, and 1 in District 6. The first property is 812 North Mathewson Avenue. This property has been vacant for an unknown number of years. The house has continued to deteriorate with missing foundation blocks, shifting and leaning columns, and missing siding. Housing nuisance and tall grass and weeds cases have been pursued over the years, but all attempts at compliance have failed. At this time, both the front and rear doors are unsecured, and the premise includes scattered trash and tall grass and weeds. The property taxes for 2018 and 2019 are delinquent in the amount of $1,538. There's a 2019 special assessment for $999.63 for lot cleanup.
And just this question might be, I guess, obvious, but no one's living in these homes.
No, sir.
Okay.
No, not at all. The next property is 1320 South Patty. This property has also been vacant for an unknown number of years. It continues to deteriorate with rotting and deteriorating siding, porches, and trim. The framing is also starting to show its wear and tear, and the foundation is also shifting. Housing nuisance and tall grass and weeds cases have been pursued over the last several years. Again, no compliance has been achieved. At this time, the property is unsecured with open basement and second-story windows. The premise includes tree waste and tall grass and weeds. It's important to note that in the past 5 years, police have been called to this location twice, once for an attempt to locate persons and once with a dead body found. In 2018 and 2019, the taxes are delinquent in the amount of $421.41. There is a 2020 special assessment for lot cleanup in the amount of $729.84. My favorite picture. The next property is 1370 South Bluffview. This property has been vacant also for an unknown number of years and was badly damaged by fire in July 2018. You can see that there's a large open hole still in the roof. We've had housing, nuisance, and graffiti and tall grass and weeds cases on this property. No compliance achieved as of yet. And it's important to note that for this particular property, in the last few days, someone has removed all of the board ups. So it is completely unsecured at this moment. It was not a contractor's job, so we'll take care of getting that resecured regardless. In the last 5 years, there have been 9 reported police incidents at this location, including lost miscellaneous property, other destruction, larceny, battery, burglary, etc. The 2018 and 2019 taxes are delinquent in the amount of $1,520.19, and there are 2 special assessments for 2019 totaling $348.90 for mowing and board up expenses. The next property is 2874 South Davidson Street. This property has been vacant at least since July 2018 when it was badly damaged by fire. Housing nuisance and tall grasses and weeds cases have been pursued. It is not in compliance, obviously. The property is currently unsecured and has collapsing walls. Premise conditions include a number of illegally dumped items and overgrown vegetation. In the last 5 years, there was 1 reported police incident at this address for arson. Property taxes are delinquent in the amount of $3,527.67 for 2016 through 2019. In 2019, a special assessment was levied for lot cleanup in the amount of $1,473.10. The next property is 1218 West Fig Street. This is the rear structure located on the property. It's been vacant for an unknown period of time, was damaged by fire in July of 2019. Housing and nuisance cases are active on this property. It is secured and maintained at this time, but continues to deteriorate due to the weather exposure with badly rotting trim on all sides and the front enclosed porch badly damaged by fire. In the last 5 years, there have been 9 reported police incidents at this location, including burglary, trespassing, auto theft, larceny, aggravated robbery, domestic violence, etc. Property taxes are delinquent for 2019 in the amount of $1,321.18. Excuse me. The next property is 1222 South Martinson Avenue. This property has been vacant for an unknown number of years. It continues to deteriorate with a block and concrete foundation that has large gaps and missing mortar, and the front porch that is rotting and in danger of collapse. A housing case has been open on this property for almost 2 years. At this time, it's unsecured with an open window, and the premise conditions include scattered trash and overgrown vegetation. In the past 5 years, there have been 4 reported police incidents at this location, including suspicious characters, other destruction, and burglary. Property taxes are delinquent from 2017 in the amount of $1,088.65. We'll have quite a bit of work to do on this one. Okay, the last property is 813 North Water Street. This property has been vacant for an unknown number of years. It was badly damaged by fire in February of 2020. Housing, nuisance, and tall grass and weeds cases are active on this property. It is not yet in compliance. It is currently secure, and the premise conditions are overgrown. In the last 5 years, there have been 3 reported police incidents at this property, including home accident falls, trespassing, and miscellaneous other. Property taxes are delinquent since 2017 in the amount of $1,748.97. Assessments for 2020 total $1,392.55 for lot cleanup, mowing, and board up. I'd be happy to answer any questions before the motion.
Councilmember Clendenin.
Thank you. I know you guys work extremely hard and are continuing to add cases upon cases and spend resources and time
It seems like in most of the cases, up to 2 or more years on some of these properties that are obviously dangerous. What is the holdup at expediting some of these properties? They're extreme dangers. They're causing us to use police resources, your resources. What's the holdup?
In and of itself, the processes that we pursue are lengthy. And our first goal is always to achieve voluntary compliance, to give the owners, or in some cases their heirs, the opportunity to remedy the problem. And that can look like just like demolishing the property on their own, in securing it and cleaning it up on their own, or selling it to someone who has a better use for it. It doesn't always move as quickly as we would like. I mean, we share your frustration with that, but we do allow adequate time to make sure that, like I said, voluntary compliance is received, especially before we're going to move them to this point and suggest them for condemnation.
Well, I guess my next question is for our manager. Bob, some of these structures have been burned out from the beginning. Nobody's lived in them. I don't know. At one time we were trying to expedite things. We're trying to change state law at some point in time. Sometimes they get held up in court. I'd like to have a discussion on especially this list. I'm looking at everything has been 2 years or more, and we're spending a lot of precious resources on things when either people were ignoring our attempts to get a hold of them, or I don't know. There's over 9 years now, I've seen a variety of reasons why. These are dangerous to the community, and I definitely don't want to take somebody's property away from them if they're trying, if they're communicating with us. But at one point, we had changed our processes to try to expedite some of these. What are we doing today to try to change either state law or our own processes?
I'm not sure a lot of these have state law issues. I'll let Caitlin talk about that in just a minute. This probably be a good workshop item. The deliberate nature of our process is somewhat reflective of where the council has been in the past. Mm-hmm. And you can remember, I know, many cases that have been through the process, have reached the council. Property owners then or heirs have asked for additional time. Sure. And in many cases, they get multiple extensions and still don't get the work done. So what we'd like to, maybe what we can do is we can bring for you at a workshop what the process has been to date, give you kind of the average number of days or years it's taken to get some of these addressed, what the obstacles have been, and then maybe get direction from council on how aggressive you want us to be on these.
That would be wonderful. Because this is not, my frustration is not at all with our inspection department or staff, at all. I just know that there are roadblocks that have caused us to let some of these go 2 or more years. And in the meantime, I think on every single property, there were, the police had to be called out there several times. And so these properties are really draining precious resources right now. And if there's any sort of low-hanging fruit at all, I don't know that there is, I'd love to do a workshop and talk about what the obstacles are.
I'd like to bring the law department in as well to talk about the process. It's one of those issues that if you wanted to be more aggressive, and this is just me speaking, not necessarily our field staff, but proof of financing, ability to be able to make the repairs that they're representing that they want to make could go a long way. Because we've had many people represent that they'll get the work done. 90 days later, they haven't started, and they come and they say, I'm having a hard time getting started. I can't, I'm still trying to raise the money, whatever, and that kicks us down another 3 months. So, but Kaylin, you
One thing I would indicate that in the instances of fire damaged properties, we do have the ability, if they are structurally unsound and truly a danger, we can handle those through an emergency demolition process, and we do that. The most difficult ones for us are the ones that are vacant, they've been vacant a while, then they have a fire, but it's not a catastrophic fire, it does take a while to work through those nuances.
Sure.
Now, quite frankly, the one on Davidson Street should have been done through an emergency condemnation. We should have just taken care of that when it happened. If I remember correctly, that happened right at the end of a budget year, and we held on that. We had to hedge a bit, just simply because the money for regular condemnations in non-CDBG areas and for fire demolitions comes from the same pot.
Sure.
So.
Well, and the last thing that we want to do is take a property for someone who they're going to clean it up. We don't want to demolish buildings, but.
And it does occasionally happen.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
It does. We've had several. That's why we've been very lenient up here many times when they come to us and ask us for extra time. I don't know, again, what the history of these properties are, if people have begged to have more time or not, but definitely I'm just from experience doubting that is probably the case. But anyway, just some concerns. Bob, that would be wonderful if we could do just a workshop to try to not let things get out of hand like they used to be. They're definitely not nearly like they used to be, but I really don't want to go backwards at all. So, thanks.
Councilmember Fry.
Thank you. Kaylin, I'm sorry, we looked at 7 houses here, so I may have missed this, but the one on Fig Street is the only one that had someone, an owner's rep at BCSA. Did you speak to that?
Yes, we did.
Okay, I'm sorry if I missed that. Could you repeat that?
Yes, Mr. Morrell did attend that meeting. At that time, he indicated his intent to bring down the structure, but he hasn't done anything toward that just yet. I believe it's a matter of finances to be able to do that.
And how long ago was that?
That was in August.
In August, okay, thank you.
And it's been that way for a while. It's been in that condition for a while.
And he's not an adjacent property owner to that property, is he?
No, he owns it.
Okay.
He actually owns it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Bob, in that workshop, I really would like to get into the weeds on that. So any frustrations from staff, I know we met earlier this year, but really just trying to see what those challenges have been so we can think through that pretty deeply.
You didn't mean that pun, did you?
I did. I'm trying to be like Councilmember Fry.
Slow on the uptake today. Not enough candy corn.
I'm just pausing for all these jokes. All right, any further comment? And this falls into District 1, 3, 4, and 6. I will recognize Councilmember Clendenin from District 3 for a motion.
Mayor, I'll just take staff's recommended action on all these properties.
Motion has been made and seconded by the Vice Mayor. With that, clerk will open the roll. We shall cast our votes. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
DER 2019-11, Business Improvement District for the Douglas Design District.
Welcome.
Good morning. Scott Wadle from the Planning Department, here to present on the item for repealing the creation of the Douglas Design District, Business Improvement District. So here's a map of the district, pretty much extending from Washington to Oliver. Earlier this year, in response to a proposal from the Douglas Design District and a planning committee, the City Council passed an ordinance establishing a business improvement district for the Douglas Design District. State statute established the process for the creation of the business improvement district and also a process for a protest petition. A protest petition was submitted within the state-required 45-day deadline. The petition included signatures of business owners, which were verified, representing a majority of businesses in the Business Improvement District, 132 out of 662 businesses. The staff recommended action is to place the ordinance, repealing the ordinance that created the Business Improvement District for the Douglas Design District on the first reading, to authorize the necessary signatures and to instruct the city clerk to publish the ordinance after approval on the second reading. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? Councilmember Clendenin.
Mayor, I can wait until after all the other questions. I have just a procedural thing for me on this.
First, Vice Mayor Claycomb.
And I don't have a question, I just have a comment, so if there are questions,
The floor is yours, Vice Mayor. You're the only one on the list.
thank you. Scott, thank you. I just want to say that, this didn't turn out the way that the Planning Committee had suggested, nor the way that some of the businesses did, but I also want to thank both sides of this issue, because I think we saw that there, as in other communities, sometimes these don't pass the first time. I don't know if it'll come back, but they sometimes don't pass the first time. And I think it really brought the Douglas Design District forward to think about, okay, how do we want to move forward on something like this? And right now, they didn't think a bid was the way to go. But I think I want to just give kudos to the Planning Committee and the folks that worked on that, and also the businesses that worked on gaining the signatures to say we're not ready for this and repealing it. So thank you for presenting that today, Scott.
Councilmember Clendenin.
Thank you. This is a question for our law department. My wife has a business inside Douglas Design District, and we could benefit or not benefit from this vote. So would it be probably best that I abstain from this vote?
That would be appropriate if you have a substantial interest or your spouse has a substantial interest. So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Other comments or discussion on this? See none. With that, I will defer the floor to Councilmember Johnson as this falls into District 1.
Thank you, Mayor. As the Vice Mayor said, this was a very engaged process with hearing from both sides, a few long nights. I appreciate staff accompanying me before we had our committee on hearing from businesses in the Douglas Design District. So the folks have spoken, and I would move that we take staff recommended action.
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilmember Johnson, and it was seconded by the Vice Mayor. Clerk will open the roll. Members cast their votes. One more time, Jeff. Jeff, do it again. Stop hitting it. Just hit it once. With a result of 6 yeas to 1 abstain, the councilmember from District 3, Councilmember Clendenin, has abstained. The motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Public hearing, Capital Fund Program 2020 Grant and 2020-2024 5-year action plan.
Welcome back.
Hello again, Mayor, members of council. Sally Stang from Housing and Community Services for the record. The item I have for you now is the 2020 Capital Fund Program Budget and 5-year action plan. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development grants capital funds to public housing authorities for their public housing properties. Our grant for 2020 is $1,470,462. It can be used for grant administration, operations, training, A&E, site improvements, dwelling structures, relocation, anything related to the capital improvement of those public housing properties. We're required to have a 45-day public comment period, which began on September 2nd and ended on October 16th, and we received no comments. The Capital Fund program allows us to transfer 25% of the Capital Fund grant to operations because our program has more than 250 units. The budgets in the 5-year action plan are based on the 2020 grant, although we don't expect to be in the public housing business through 2024, we're still required to put together the plan. When the multifamily units or the senior units convert to RAD, which we expect in February of 2021, future capital fund grants will be lower and only be for any remaining properties that we have in public housing. And we will develop a new 5-year action plan based on the 2021 grant once it's known. So of that $1.4 million is broken out to the 25% for operations, 10% for administration, Fees and costs can be related to the demolition and disposition activities that we want to have happen next year. $730,000 for temporary relocation in both the senior properties and permanent relocation in the single-family homes. The facade improvements are some capital improvements for the RAD senior project. So of this grant, just under $79,000 is going towards the senior project. And then we have to put placeholders in for the transfer of funds between public housing and the RAD project. So the $6 placeholder is a kind of a strange item, but it has to be in there for us to make a transfer. So it's recommended to conduct a public hearing, approve the capital fund program for 2020 to 2024, the 2020 annual budget, including the transfer of 25% to operations, and authorize the necessary signature for submission to HUD. And I stand for any questions that you have.
All right, questions or discussion from the bench? See none. If there's no questions or discussion on this item, then I will make the motion to take staff's recommended action. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded by the vice mayor. Clerk, open the roll. Members will cast their votes. With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Madam Clerk.
Councilmember appointments and comments.
Appointments and comments. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a resignation on the Cultural Funding Committee, Mr. Carl Stovall. I would like to appoint Anthony Joyner to the Cultural Funding Committee to take his position.
Other appointments. We can do them all in one sweep. If there's no other appointments, then I will second the motion. There's no discussion on the motion. Clerk, open the roll, and we will vote on the acceptance of the appointment. With the result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. Back on public comments. Is there any discussion for the good of the group? If none, Councilmember Johnson.
Thanks, Mayor. Just to Carl resigned. He got busy, but he has been a real benefit to the committee over the years of his service. He was appointed by my predecessor and also had been a great service to the Black Arts Festival when we had that. So I just wanted to acknowledge him publicly in his service, and definitely is appreciated, and I think we are better for it.
Other comments? I have 3 motions for 3 different executive sessions. I'm trying to ensure that I got the timing right, so bear with me. All right, first one. I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive information on a potential eminent domain action pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, for potential litigation, legal advice, and protect the city's right to the confidentiality of its negotiating position in the public interest. This is to start at 10:05 until 10:45.
Mayor, did you mean 10:35?
10:35.
10:35 till 10:45, yes. Is that, my apologies. Is that, please stop me if I'm not 1000% clear with this. Last time I think this got more complicated than it needed to be. And then at 10:50, we will start I motion to start another executive session for 10 minutes where I move that the City Council recess into executive session for 10 minutes to receive information on a civil action pursuant to KSA 754319B2 for legal consultation with the city attorney, which would be deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship, potential litigation, legal action. The executive session is required to protect attorney-client privilege, and the public interest. So this would start at 10:50 and it will go till 11 o'clock. The final executive session, which I will make a motion, is I move that the city council recess into executive session for 30 minutes to receive information relating to security issues affecting the city of Wichita pursuant to KSA 754319B2, to discuss matters relating to security measures if the discussion of such matters is an open meeting would jeopardize such security measures that protect a public body or agency, public building or facility, or the information system of a public body or agency. For purposes of this paragraph, security means measures that protect against criminal acts intended to intimidate or coerce the civil population, influence government policy by intimidation or coercion, or to affect the operation of government by disruption of public services, mass destruction, assassination, or kidnapping. Security measures include, but are not limited to, intelligence information, tactical plans, resource development, and vulnerable assessments. The executive session is required to protect the security of the city, its public works, buildings, facilities, and information systems, or to protect the security of private property or individuals. This will start at 11:05 for 30 minutes. So to 11:35. Motion has been made.
Second.
Motion has been seconded by the vice mayor. If there's no discussion on said motion, clerk open a roll. Members will cast their vote.
Mayor, may I make it clear that there are 3 motions to be voted on, and you're joining this into one, if you'd like to do that? I just need to make it clear for the record.
Yes, for the record, I am asking that all 3 of these motions be taken up by one, so that one vote shall constitute the passing of all 3 motions, and we will be stuck in executive session for a very long time. The seconder of the motion does understand. The 6, we're missing someone if someone chooses not to. Thank you. With a result of 7 yeas to 0 nays, the motion does pass. We're in executive session in 3 minutes.